My name is Angela, for those of you that don't know me, and I am New Life's executive pastor. And you're getting this video because you had the courage to mark the box that I was for my ad that I placed called crowdsourcing in the program. First off, thank you. That takes a lot of guts to throw your name in the hat. I really appreciate that. And I am super excited. I can't tell if that idea is totally brilliant to crowdsource something like that or if that's going to be really tricky to deal with. But I'm super excited because I love children. I find them highly entertaining and just the right kind of challenge. But when I think about knowing my unique go, it's actually strategic thinking. And if I get to do strategic thinking on behalf of students and children, I love it. I love it. So I already know a few things about you just because you marked your card. Some of you I've actually met and worked in ministry before, but actually quite a few of you that marked your card are wholly unknown to me. And I'm really excited about the combination of the opportunity to get to know you and the opportunity to get to know other strategic thinkers and to start putting our brains together on stuff. So I decided we're going to meet. Don't worry. This video is not in lieu of meeting. But I decided, since there were so many of you that marked your Connect card with this, rather than tell the same story over and over and over again, I would start before we even meet giving you an update on where we are and what's stirring in our family wing at New Life. And in order to do that, you're going to want to settle in, grab a cup of coffee, push pause. This will take a little bit because God's stirring quite a little bit. So I'm going to tell broad, sweeping history and forward thinking things to give you the context for that ad and the context for our meeting. That's just going to take a minute. So settle in. Let's just define for a second what families is, because that's going to cover, every time I refer to families, I'm referring to children that are 0 through 18. It's the whole span, or 0 through graduating seniors. And I am also referring to parents and the role that the church can play in partnering with families on the parenting front as well. Inside of that, at New Life, we have 3 different age groups currently. We have the Kids Life age group, which is 0 through kindergarten. And then we have the zone, the Kids Construction Zone, which is elementary school. And then we currently have Club 56, which is the 5th and 6th grade on Sunday mornings. And then our youth group is junior high and senior high combined. But all of that is going to be changing in the next couple of years. And let me give you some context on why that is. If you follow church trends at all, the American church is dying. If that is a bold statement to make. It is, people are leaving the church, students specifically, and millennials are leaving the church at a faster rate than we can actually make changes to how we do church to actually figure out what's going on. God's pretty clear in the Bible that his word is going to go on, and it's not something to be panicked about. But as people that are invested in the church, as people that believe in the power of the church, it is highly alarming. It is time in the overarching sweep of the American church's story. It is time to do some serious rethinking. And it's not rethinking the good news. It's not rethinking where we hold our salvation's hope. It is rethinking how to engage, especially the next generation. But the truth is, we as a human society are evolving. But let's, for the sake of this conversation, it is time to rethink what it means to engage students in their journey with God. And this is where we go into a little bit of a history lesson. We used to be a churched culture, and the assumption was that you went to church on Sunday morning, and just by pure exposure, you knew the story of the Bible, you knew who God was, you believed in God, your family, your nucleus family, believed in God. But we as an entire nation have moved well beyond that, but particularly out here in the West Coast and on the East Coast, we have moved post-Christian. That means that the average student that is walking in the door, and actually the average millennial, and actually even above that, I'm in the Gen X. A lot of the people that are walking through our door don't have any church background. They have no context for this. They are thirsty. They want to understand. They wouldn't be walking in our door if they weren't. But what it takes to actually engage is completely different than what it used to take. And in fact, as we have stayed the course of doing what we used to do, it's not working anymore. So even though that worked for 100, 150 years, this model of what Sunday morning engagement looks like, even though human nature hasn't changed, how we engage with information has completely changed. So we may still hold totally the right information, but if we do not begin to rethink how we disseminate that information, how we have people interact with that information, what happens around that information, then we will lose our relevance to our culture. And that's not going to happen on our watch. No way. So we are in the family wing of things. I would say church-wide, we are actually rethinking a ton of stuff. But in the family wing of things, especially when you know that it's students that are fleeing the church, it used to be the big concern was when a kid graduated and went off to college, they might abandon their faith then. But actually, students, the way our families interact anymore, students are leaving the church significantly before they leave the home. They're just refusing now to come to church with their parents who are even going to church. And it's time. It's time to rethink. So we have looked at what we have been doing in our children's and in our youth ministries, and we aren't seeing us beating the statistics in a way that we want to beat the statistics, which is why I put out an ad for strategic thinkers, because this is going to be the weirdest blend, the best in my mind, the weirdest blend of theory, book reading, discussion, trend watching, research, but ultimately it needs to translate in a fairly quick manner to action. We cannot afford for those of us that do strategic thinking, it's not that unheard of to take a look at some corporate problem that's going on and say that's going to take 3 to 5 years to fix. And in some ways, that is completely the same exact thing that we're here. We will not see this change actually take root for about 3 years and really become the fabric of who we are until about 5 years out. So, we're not going to be able to beat those odds. But we cannot stay at the status quo for 3 years. In order to actually affect this change, this research process needs to be thorough and it needs to be comprehensive, but it needs to move pretty quickly because there's these beautiful little children that are coming through our program. And some of them, you know, they're at the perfect age. We don't want to waste a year of their time. That's a huge portion of their statistical life. So this is an odd blend of both, okay, we need to hit an action point on the sooner end, and yet you don't change churches, you don't change family dynamics, you don't change ministry models overnight. And we're not going to pull the trigger on something until we're pretty confident that we understand what is different from what we were doing to what we're going to be doing and what's it going to take to actually get there. So that is all exciting and bad news. That is, it's unfortunate to be talking about what an uphill battle the overall church, not just New Life, the overall church has in the next coming decade. So that's difficult news. I have good news. I've already been working on this for about a year. I have done quite a bit of research to find out what is it that is happening in our ministry specifically and what is being offered out there that is different. And God has brought us a resource that I am over the moon about. It's the first time in the past when I have looked at various resources, I have seen people that love God dearly and have tried to break the Bible down and God down into child-sized pieces. For the first time ever, I have found a resource that these people get child development, human development, and they also happen to love God, and they have taken their skill and their passion for child development and the health of a family, and they've chosen to wield that on behalf of the church by making this resource something that churches can use to partner with families. They have their eye on the ball about the reality that families face. Lots of times we'll find good Christian material, but it seems to expect that we are all homeschooling our children and we all have multiple hours every day to foster their spiritual development. I ideally we would be infusing multiple hours every day into our child's spiritual development. But the reality is most of our students are in band or most of our students have extracurricular activities like sports, and Parents often report that they feel more like a taxi cab than anything else. It's tricky, this American lifestyle that we have, and how can we partner with parents in a way? In history, the church has just taken on the role of spiritual development. We've just fully owned, okay, well, parents are totally overwhelmed, so I guess the church will do it. It's not working. I read a statistic this week that said in the average family, that family will spend more time in the car together than they will spend in 1 month. More time in a car together in 1 month than they will spend in your children's ministry program in a year. That's just the reality of where we are. And we need to recognize that means the church cannot, that's not enough time for the church to actually be the spiritual developer of students. That begs the question, well, what role can we play? And then how can we partner with parents so that they can play their role? And how can we partner with parents in a way that doesn't guilt them into somehow thinking they aren't doing good enough if they aren't spending multiple hours every day developing their child's psyche and their child's spirituality on top of their academics and physical health and all of that kind of stuff. What is it? What role can the church play? How do we partner with parents? What is it that would actually take this generation and compel them, inspire them to foster some kind of connection with God? We look back at history and we can see that we have cranked out those. I don't know how many of you were raised in the church, but I was raised in the church. And by the time I was in junior high, dude, I knew the Jesus answers. You could put me in just about any Sunday school class in America, and I could be the kid that raises it like, I know, because I knew the Jesus answers. But it took me developing my own individual faith to actually get this vibrant walk with God that was compelling enough for me to invest in myself rather than just be fed by my parents or fed by my local church. What is it that allows students to not only be exposed to biblical truths and feel some level of biblical literacy, for lack of a better word, and yet does not accidentally create kids that know the Jesus answers, but have somewhere along the lines not fallen in love with God? What's going to bring them to church even when their parents are apathetic at best? Or what's going to bring them to church even when they've moved out of their parents' homes? What's going to have what will have the effect that we want that fosters this internal curiosity and engagement that is not leaning on the church too heavily, is not leaning on the parents too heavily, and actually engages students from 0 through 18. I am so excited. I'm sorry, we are 12 minutes into this. I promise to wrap it up. That's the kind of stuff that we're working on with this team. So I wanted to give you that for a couple of reasons. Hopefully that sparks like, oh, yes, I wonder about that. I'm sure some of you have students of your own at home. You're probably like, yes, please. Somebody tell me how to foster my students' spiritual growth. Or for some of you, I'm including you here, I want you to know this is the kind of dialogue we will be having, provoking each other with questions, going out and pounding some pavement to get the research done, coming back in, going back out to learn the different aspects of this resource that we found, which, by the way, I don't know if this is going to help you, but it is called Orange. And it's on the internet, but when I first started looking around at stuff, it's definitely their website is made for children's pastors and youth pastors to get. It's not made necessarily for parents to just go clicking around, but you're welcome to Google it if that's the kind of person that you are. Orange is the resource that we will be modeling here. That is a both partnership with parents and maximizing the time that we have with students when they are on our campus. And anyway, so, but some of you may hear this and be like, oh my word, no, that's too theoretical and out there, or no, I'm not that drawn to child development. It's totally okay. That is completely okay. I want you to know what you're getting into before we even get into our actual meeting. As far as our actual meeting goes, I have a few things I'd like you to be thinking about. One, I'll let you know that my assistant Julie is going to be reaching out to you to set up a time. If this video is enough for you to know, no thank you, that is not necessarily what I'm looking for, feel free to reply to her and say that. No thank you, you can take me off the books. If it is what you want, she'll reach out and get us a time to chat. In that time to chat, here's a couple of things that I will be asking you, so you might as well be thinking about it. Which age group are you drawn to? And don't worry about using New Life's titles, because those titles are going to change, and even our groupings of we're going to put 0 through 5 years old together again. Even that's going to be changing. So just tell me generically, I'm drawn to this age group and I want to think on their behalf. Secondly, be thinking through, I need to get to know you in this meeting. So it'd be super helpful if you were thinking through what your strategic thinking background is or your leadership experience is. I'd really like to get to know you by getting to know a little bit of your story so that I can begin to ferret out, is this the right fit? How will this team come together? What does that look like? So if you could be thinking through that. And lastly, oh, nope, I have two. What drew you to this ad specifically? What is it that's like, oh, I am loving that? And that could be a wide open question, but what drew you there? And then lastly, where are you on the disc profile? That's DISC, is a temperament, I don't know, test. That sounds terrible. It's just a get to know you test. And it's different temperaments or personality styles or learning styles, however you want to describe that. But there are 4 different, and then you take that test and it'll tell you your blend. I am an ID. That is my weighted measuring stick. If you are familiar with disc, then that's probably not too surprising. But I would like to know, if you want to Google it and take a free version, if you're not familiar with it, if you are familiar with it, I would love to know where you are in that. That just helps me know how to engage with you. So those are the 4 things. Let's say that a little bit slower. Which age group are you drawn to? What drew you to this ad specifically? What were you thinking? What is your strategic thinking or leadership background? And where do you fall in the disc profile? Those are the 4 things. And then Julie will be in touch. I am here. So obviously I'm going to send you this video via email. You can hit me back right away and introduce yourself or ask questions or whatever. Let's get this ball rolling. This is the process of getting to know each other. Sorry, this one was a monologue. Cannot wait to get together with you and meet to get to know you. I'll throw one other thing out there. You are welcome to say thank you, but no thank you to this video or this project right off the bat. If you would still like to meet and talk about what you were thinking it would be, dude, there is place in leadership. I mean, if you have leadership gifts or administration gifts, there is always room at the table for you. So if you know this is not the right thing, but you still want to talk to somebody who's in the know about what's going on at the church, for me to get to know you, to help you try to find your spot where you can know your go, I would be happy to do that. So you're also welcome to hit Julie back and say, no, thanks for this. Can you set Angela and I a meeting up? I still want to talk about where I might be able to know my go and express that. So I'd be happy to do that too. Looking forward to seeing you in person. Thank you for putting up with these 17 minutes. I'm so sorry. By now your tea is cold. Thank you, friends. Talk to you soon.